I was watching, the All or Nothing documentary about Tottenham on Amazon,
About who?
Tottenham Hotspur.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like when you go watch their day, because like I think people have the misconception that it's like, oh, you just go play soccer and you get paid a load of money and it's all fun and games and you just go to your games and you go party. It's like those dudes are in there early in the morning for treatment and weightlifting and all the different stuff, and then they have meetings, tactics meetings, like then they go train and then they come back and then they have to do like diet stuff, and they're there for more than more than the 8 hours that most people are. So I was talking to one of my teammates who was like, who was actually, he played at the Tottenham Hotspur Academy when he was little. Now he's over here now, but he was like, yeah, the life is not easy at all. I think going through something like your summer, if you have aspirations to go into any sort of real professional setting where you have to be accountable, you need something like that to kind of
Yeah.
teach you teach you the ropes.
Well, I think it's funny because, obviously soccer over there, it's a lot more, you know, they have the financial resources for it
Hmm.
to, provide a player a healthy lifestyle and not have to worry about other stressors.
Hmm.
I think that's one thing that's kind of funny about the MLR is that, guys are really playing it for the love of the game.
Hmm.
Guys are like, not like these top tier superstars coming over. And it's just a totally different lifestyle. Because, I mean, a lot of people, well, there's one way to look at it. It's like, okay, you have a career, and now you're going to add all this other pressure of trying to be a professional athlete
Yeah.
while also having the same responsibilities. So it's literally like you take all the responsibilities, your average day, and let's go
Hmm.
ahead and double it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about like mental toughness and being more than just playing rugby. It's definitely true.
Is that
Or
what
playing
is that what
soccer.
most of the guys are doing with MLR?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would probably say 95% of that's true for anybody playing an MLR right now. Because, I mean, you spend what for this past season, for example, you spend, you know, December up till March, you got your rugby going, and while you're doing your rugby, you're also worrying about, your finances and,
Hmm.
the health of yourself, and have that all abruptly stop in March. What happens if you weren't working on your professional side as well? Are you gonna be able to find a job, or are you gonna be, just hanging dry?
Hmm.
So I think it's good because it teaches, a crucial lesson of anybody that's playing a professional sport is your professional career is going to end one day, regardless. That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
And I think that's a reinforcing factor of you have to keep developing yourself not only as a professional athlete but also as a person, a human being,
Hmm.
for that corporate world or whatever it is that you're going to do after.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's definitely two sides to that coin. The one side of, well, if the sport is big enough, you can set yourself up for life. But the other side of it, that's not the case for most people. And so definitely it might not be easy. There's definitely a path to the future after rugby or whatever the sport is. Is the culture in Boston flexible enough where like they understand like, hey, these guys have preseason or they have to go to this practice or maybe they'll be out of town for this game, like they might miss work. Is Have you noticed that in Boston?
Hmm. Well, I think it definitely depends on what your job is in the first place.
Yeah.
um, you know when I first got to Boston, it was pretty hard to find a job because they'd be like, all right, well, can you work full time? And at that time, I was like, well, I still even know like what my rugby schedule is going to be like. I don't know
Hmm.
what time my practice is. Am I going to be making it to these games?
Hmm.
And I think that's another thing that's kind of interesting about the MLR, or at least my experience thus far, is you never know what the roster is going to be, week to week.
Why is that?
Just because, I mean, guys get injured or, things happen and whatnot. You might be a starter and you
Hmm.
might get injured, right? So who's
Hmm.
going to get called up is that guy that was third string is now going to be the second string.
Hmm.
And let's say that he's, on schedule to work a job, Saturday or something, and he's got all of a sudden now trying to find somebody to fill his gap
Yeah.
for the work. I mean, for example, I worked at a brewery. I got it from a friend on a local club team up there in Boston, and she was very nice lady, and she was like, "Yeah, I like rugby, blah blah blah. Like I know you guys have a season coming up, and I'll work with you guys as best as possible to do scheduling and whatnot." So, for example, like my day was wake up at 6 a.m., drive to the field, which is probably 45 minutes away. Do practice from 8 to about 10,
Mm-hmm.
leave, spend another 45 minutes getting to like our chow hall, and eat from probably be what 11 to 12, and then from 11 to 12 we would take a quick drive over to the gym that our team has. You do like your afternoon lift.
Mm-hmm.
So from 12 to 1 you're doing your lift, and then immediately after that you're doing like your overview of what practice was. You're going over practice film, or you're getting ready for the game coming up. So from 1 to 2, that's your film time and whatnot, and then 2 to 2:30, that was like your team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
What to expect for the week coming up, what to expect for practice tomorrow, stuff like that. Kind of just more like administrative discussions. And then after that meeting was done, like I was taking a shower in the gym, throwing on my work uniform, and I was booking it to the bar in Boston, be there by like 3:30 or 4. And then, obviously I'd work till about 11 p.m. And that was my day consistently. So it was interesting because, like, I had told my boss, yeah, I can work, 40 hours. This is the schedule I can keep.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as games started to come up and guys got injured and I started finding myself having more playing time and whatnot, then
Mm-hmm.
that's when it became like a big issue, because it was like, all right, I keep scheduling you, but now all of a sudden you keep needing these times off. Like, it's not going to work. So I
Yeah.
think there's that constant battle of finding something that can also keep your dream alive. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, it does. So you're almost about to come to, if you were to go overseas, would it be enough? The income would be enough that you wouldn't have to kind of go through that sort
Yeah.
of struggle. So
Yeah.
do most players get to a point where they kind of have to pick between kind of like, all right, I'm not gonna be able to do this anymore. Let me just go find a real job, or I'm really gonna try and put my head down and give everything to rugby and try and make it overseas.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors, obviously, that go into that.
Mm-hmm.
Age, your finances. Can you, keep trying to chip away at this dream or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is it realistic and obtainable? But I think for the most part, when you do go overseas, obviously it depends on, what league you're playing in, but it is more financially affordable for you to only have to worry about rugby.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, with that being said, I kind of appreciate the fact that the MLR is, this environment for, the hard-nosed kind of worker, because it's definitely reinforcing the fact of what I mentioned earlier of developing yourself on and off the field.
Mm-hmm. How big of a difference is the playing level between MLR and the leagues overseas?
I would say, so Mitre 10 in New Zealand is like your state provisional side. I would say Mitre 10 is probably like a stone's throw just above the MLR.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the MLR is probably, without a doubt, the lowest professional league
Mm-hmm.
so far. Obviously, you have like your Pro D2 in France, but that's still, I think, a step above the MLR. Super Rugby is, arguably the best competition to play in rugby in the world.